Well, that was 2 months ago, John. She came into the hotel the journalists were in Tripoli to try to tell the story she alleged of rape by Gaddafi's security forces when she was picked up on the streets of Tripoli. And people will remember seeing those images of her being very brutally bundled up, a bag put over her head, taken out of the hotel, taken into custody. And she really did drop out of sight. We were able to get an interview with her on just a couple of occasions while she was in Tripoli. She was essentially under arrest, couldn't leave the capital. Well, now she has left Libya. She has fled Libya. She has managed to escape. And the story of how she did that is incredibly dramatic. She did it with the help of an army officer who was defecting from Gaddafi's army, who had the vehicle and papers that were able to get her to the border. With the help of the rebels, she was able to cross the border into Tunisia. When we met up with her yesterday, she, still at that stage, was not clear about what she wanted to do.
Would you like to go see your family in the East, or what are you planning next in the future?
I still don't know what I'm going to do. Of course I'd like to see my family. I have called some relatives of mine in Egypt, but still did not hear back from them. No, I did not rush. I walked to my cousin's house and we all met then, rode in the same car. We left very normally, of course. I was wearing, bring me that, it's a traditional tribal headwear, a maziria, which was given to me by my friend's mother. I was wearing it, and indeed you can't see anything apart from my one eye.
So there you have it. More details she was explaining there of how she managed to get out, not only having the assistance of a defecting army officer whose papers allow them to travel the mountain roads, get to the border, meet with rebels, get themselves across the border into Tunisia, but she was wearing essentially a piece of clothing that kept her face concealed. She is getting the help now, the protective custody from a European embassy here in this country, in Tunisia. At the moment, we're not being specific with the details at the moment because of respect for her concern. She's still, when we met with her yesterday, she was still very concerned about her safety and security, worried that she might be being followed by Libyan agents, worried about what might happen next. This has taken her 2 months now to be able to win her freedom and get out of the country. She has really become, in that time, and in particular from the moment she came into that hotel in Tripoli, become a symbol of all that people are worried about in Libya, about the oppression and lack of people's freedom of rights to express themselves, and in her case, about the brutality she received at the hands of the forces of Muammar Gaddafi's regime. John?
Let me ask you more about that, because it was a shocking story she told. Was there ever any indication that anyone had been punished for what she says she endured?
It seems that she is the person that received the greatest punishment for this. She wasn't able, she said, to be able to go out on the streets in Tripoli because people would look at her, they would accuse her of being raped and everything that goes with that. They would denigrate her. She said she'd be picked up by the police. They would have nothing to charge her with, and they would then have to release her. But the men that she accused of rape, as far as we know, have not been brought to court, although she filed charges with the Attorney General's office where she said she had very little help and assistance. Those men weren't brought to court or to justice in any way, and at the moment, as far as we know in Libya, they are still free to roam around on.
What's going to happen to her now?
Well, she will have a number of choices. She said that she would like to be able to see her family. She is in sort of protective diplomatic custody with a European embassy. They are trying to help her and no doubt facilitate whatever she wants to do. No doubt the opposition, the Libyan opposition, will want to meet with her. She has become a very big symbol for them as well. Her Facebook page has been filled with thousands and thousands and thousands of people following every movement. There's undoubtedly going to be huge demands on her for her attention, what she has to say, and this will be a very, very difficult period for her. She's been under intense psychological pressure for the last 2 months, very very, very difficult, I think, for any of us to imagine what that would be like, to go through the emotional and psychological trauma of brutal rape and then to live under essential imprisonment in a city where the regime is hostile to you. You don't know what your fate is from one day to the next. It's not in your hands. And now suddenly to be presented after all that time with her freedom, after it must have been an incredibly anxiety-filled trip to get across the border, now to have that freedom and those opportunities, it is going to be very, very difficult for her to know exactly what her next move will be. No doubt the diplomats she is with at the moment will be able to give her good advice and good counsel, and no doubt we will be hearing where she is going and what she's doing. But at the moment, that's in her hands, and she will be making those decisions right now, John.